don't be scared. When not opportunity knocks, I'm not joking. I will say this till the day I die.
Hmm.
Answer the door. You have no idea what
Hmm.
you are truly capable of. And so at the end of the day, have confidence in yourself and realize that you're not going to be perfect at everything, and that's okay. It's totally fine.
Unfortunately, it's the reality. Everyone at the end of the day is just in it for themselves. Some people are probably going to completely disagree with this. I think when I look at what helped me get into these programs that are considered exclusive or whatever, helped me raise money, that reverse engineering process from greed is really just what's in it for me? Or we say with them, what's in it for me, right? So whenever I think of someone in a deal, I'm like with them. What's in it for this person? What do they really want? That makes you a better deal maker. And if you're a good deal maker, sales is how you get everything done. So I think that understanding that most people are unfortunately or fortunately self-interested, it gives you an advantage if you're aware of what interests they have and then be there to support them in getting to that. And you can co-elevate yourself at the same time. That's how I think about it. I made a lot of hiring mistakes, a lot. This is probably the area where I learned the most and grew the most just through failure. I think that, and I'm speaking from a younger person's perspective because I was building this in college. Remember, that's where it started.
Right.
There is definitely a tendency, and it's understandable and intuitive, that you want to build something with your friends. That was such a terrible mistake. All of it. I made this mistake time and time again. In Techstars, I was also looking to hire more engineers. We were capitalized. How are we sourcing these engineers? How are we screening them? What does the interview process look like? I really believe that I cut a lot of corners because I just wanted to build more features. I wanted to get the product out. As someone that used to laugh and say, corporate culture, that's just something they teach us in textbooks. No, this is the most important thing and maybe one of the hardest to get right.
Reach out for help. Do not hesitate to talk to senior people. They used to be afraid to talk to VPs, and that was just 5 years ago. When I broke that barrier, felt comfortable going and talking to anybody and asking for help, it really enabled a lot for me.
Yeah, good question. I think so networking we already talked about. I think that's kind of been the common advice that I've always received as well. Two, second piece of advice is, don't be afraid of failure. Like, I think a lot of people are afraid to do something wrong or make a mistake. And I do notice now working with teams that, there's people that come, especially coming out of school, because school has such a focus on like not making mistakes and, getting good grades and things like that. So it's like people come out and they're kind of afraid of failing or afraid of making a mistake. But, I don't think this is a bad thing at all, because if you make a mistake, you're discovering something that doesn't work. And a lot of people don't take any risks at work because they're afraid of making a mistake. So second piece of advice is, everybody should have some leniency at work. I mean, everyone has to check within their own team. There's certainly roles where you can't make mistakes. So take this with a grain of salt. But where you have a more open role or you have more opportunity to do things yourself or a little bit more autonomy, don't be afraid to try things, because the only way to really learn and get better and to find good ideas is to try different things and see what works and what doesn't work, and then kind of iterating from there. So I'm always an advocate of the kind of iterative approach and not being afraid of a failure, and just being curious. I think one thing that I kind of notice now is when I talk to people, especially on getting ahead and these questions, like you've said too, how do I build the skills? How do I learn? You have to be curious, right? So, you learn some things in school, like even when you and I were in class together, right? And there's some things that in the limited amount of time that we have per week, I'm going to be able to teach a class. But people have to be able to take what they learn and kind of take it further ahead by themselves, right? So if I teach you a concept, let's say a particular model and how that model works, don't just stop there. Like, take the model. Now, again, you have access to tools. Ask ChatGPT more detail. How does it work? How does it make decisions? Can you give me an example? Walk me through the math, right? So you have these tools at your hands. So I think that's the third piece of advice is be curious, continue to learn, make sure you really understand why something is the way that it is, and build that habit, make that a habit, because that's going to make anybody better in their current role or any future roles. But it'll also help you kind of identify things you need to build or to learn to help get you to the next step.
I'll give you an example of what happened. Was I was in South by Southwest in Austin, Texas, and I was in one of the sessions with J.J. Abrams, the director of Star Wars.
Okay.
And he was talking about his journey. He started with an 8mm camera, and he was shooting with his friends, and he was making small movies and stuff. And I said there was always a struggle to buy that film roll, to get that camera, to bring that film, and cut that film and everything.
Right.
He then said that is not the case anymore. He said that the studio is sitting in your pocket, and this is your studio. He said, if you have a little bit of creativity, your studio is sitting in your pocket. Go and make content, edit it yourself, publish it on YouTube, which is a distribution channel.
Internet.
Music you can create. Video-wise, you can shoot whatever your story is. He said, and you keep on doing it on a regular basis till somebody notices it. They say, oh, you do such kind of good stuff. Why don't you come for us?
Right.
That was quite a great learning from me. I said, kids have got it so easy at this point in time in their life that iPhone can be your whole studio. And anyone who has interest in being a creative need to start building a portfolio of their own. Not worrying about somebody's going to come and pay the money, or somebody's going to come and tell them how to write a story. Just keep on making it. Don't worry about the quality of it. Don't worry about how it's going to look and what people are going to.
You will probably be the sum or some sort of average of the people around you. Now, what happens in IIT is that there are a lot of alums from IIT who have built startups, run companies, right? You sort of have that access and that mentorship, right? For example, today there are a lot of founders who I consider as my mentors. Happen to be either from my college, like seniors, even like people who are junior to me, right? But probably more experienced than me in company building and startups, right? I also take advice from them. So it gives you that, I would say, network, right? So again, being a first-time founder, I thought that if I build a good product, customers would come, right? Again, obviously, you must have heard of that. Like that's how it do not happen. Right? It doesn't happen that way. You do need to do proper market research. You do need to not just market research. You have to validate the pain point. You have to validate who the buyer of the product would be, right? Many cases, there are problems that are bound around us, but probably no one would pay you to solve those problems. In that case, solving that problem would be a good, business. I say business, but good thing for an NGO to do, but not a good thing for a business to do or person. So you have to find there is a valid problem, but there is a large chunk of people who are willing to pay for that, right? So that is what we call problem validation space.
Right.
I would say I didn't do that very well in the startup, right? I straight away went into building the product, which really backfired because, it eats up your time and it eats up your, runway. And after a year of building the product, I realized, the market needs something really different, right? So I think that is probably the first mistake and probably the biggest mistake we did. Also, I didn't value the importance of, talking with customers a lot, or let's say networking with customers a lot, right? And that really backfired again, because at the end of the day, if you're building a product for your customers, you have to understand their psyche. How do they think, right? What is it that keeps them at night, right? Many times the problems that are visible to us are probably not the problem that keeps us at night. There are multiple level problems that you need to solve, right? Again, at that problem discovery phase, again, we faltered. Eventually, that took us long time to correct, and we ran out of, money to sort of, sustain the company. And I think one thing we did really well is to move on from that quickly instead of pursuing it long. That's something I would advise everyone, starting a startup, right? It's never too late. If you think something is not working, just pivot from it, or move on from it. It's not worth your time to, sort of try to save a sinking ship. At the end of the day, you are, giving the precious time of your life to that. Sure, it is worth that.
Right.
And not because you have invested 2 years of your life, that should not warrant you to invest another year of your life into.
I will re-emphasize what I said in first place is look for exposure. Be consistent. I see a lot of people, and especially the young generation, who think that 3 months is a big time. So no, experience build over time. So don't rush the process. Don't jump every 6 months to the next opportunity without getting most of what you can get from your current experience. That's make the big difference along the way. Your ability to get a lot of exposure and to learn from it is most important. Second thing is don't compromise on your value. You need very quickly to know what is your value, because the more you grow, the more your value is defining the way you drive companies, organization. You have to be very clear in the very beginning of what are the value which fits your personality. Don't go in an organization which is not aligned with your personal values, because that's for sure a recipe for failure.
Pretty much every entrepreneur I've ever spent time with will eventually tell you that, yeah, there was this moment where by complete fluke, I'd met this one person in a restaurant, or by complete fluke, this happened at this moment in time. Or, man, if it was 2 years later, that opportunity wouldn't have been open. Now, the entrepreneur's job is to see those windows and capitalize them.
Got it.
So timing and luck, it's not like it just happens to you, right? But timing and luck combined with an entrepreneur's capacity to recognize the moment, that's what creates possibility and what creates amazing things.